Do you crumble under the pressure on game day, on the pitch? Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Cohn. I'm here with Jaclyn Ellis, our mental performance coach for soccer players and many other sports as well. Today, we're going to talk about how to handle the pressure that you're feeling on the pitch. You're watching the Sports Psychology Podcast. So, Jaclyn, one of the questions that we get quite a bit from our athletes and parents and coaches is, how do I handle pressure? Let's start from the perspective of what is pressure. Let's break that down.
Pressure, great question. So pressure can be viewed in many different ways. A lot of athletes are feeling pressure from parents and coaches, and that would be coming from expectations that they feel from those groups of people.
So the expectations to be stellar or to be perfect or to win?
Could be. It depends on at what level the athlete is playing at. It could be pressure to be scoring all of the goals and increasing stats for the team. It could be pressure to be getting the most playtime in the parents' eyes. It depends on what they feel and how good they are or how good they think they are in their sport.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when athletes think about pressure, they interpret it as they are under pressure to win by the coach, or they're under pressure to not make mistakes from sports parents. They're under pressure just to be perfect and to be stellar. What are all those expectations and sources of pressure that the athlete feels? What does it ultimately do to the performance of the athlete? And remember, pressure isn't something that's out there, right? Pressure is something that's here and how they're interpreting it, how they're interpreting those expectations. But ultimately, what happens to the performance then?
Yeah, and great point. I always tell my athletes pressure is created. We create our own pressure. And what it's doing to the performance is, well, many things. It's impacting their decision making. You know, if I'm a striker and I'm one-on-one with the keeper, I'm about to take a shot, and I feel pressure or an expectation to score, I might be distracted from what my true objective is in that moment, to pick a target in the net, let's say. And I might choke. I might miss completely.
Yeah. So can we say that pressure leads to choking, and then that choking response is really where athletes start to tighten up and they worry about making mistakes, they worry about failing, they worry about letting down others?
Yes, exactly. That is a huge mental game challenge for athletes, especially our young ones as well. They worry about what the coach thinks, what the parents think, even teammates as well.
All right, so let's talk about some tips that are going to help soccer players and athletes in general deal more with the pressure that they feel.
Yes. So one idea that we give our athletes is to help them understand what those expectations are that they might be feeling. Where is it coming from? Parent, coach, etc. And help them to understand that it's going to be much better for them to focus on a small objective in the game instead of a giant expectation. You know, I have to score. Well, let's focus on how you're going to score in that moment. Do you want to focus on a target? Do you want to focus on the type of shot? That would be more beneficial to the athlete instead of thinking about the expectation they need to meet, and that's what's putting pressure on them.
I think we have to determine the difference between what's rational about those expectations for athletes and what's irrational. What are things that they're making up in their own head as well? And I think that's a good starting place, is where is the reality behind those expectations that they're placing on themselves? Because we find that often athletes will displace their own expectations or place their own expectations onto others, like coaches and teammates and parents, when in reality, parents and coaches, teammates don't expect that. So I think we have to parse that piece out of the expectations as well.
Yes, that's a good point. What if, Dr. Cohn, the athlete does mention that there is a consequence for making a mistake, or that the coach actually is explicitly stating expectations for the athlete? What can we tell the athlete?
Yeah, and that's definitely happens where athletes are told, don't strike out again, or don't walk another batter, or don't lose the ball in our end as well. So from that perspective, we're going to approach it the same way in helping athletes focus on really what's important out there. Are you going to focus on worrying about not reaching those expectations, or are you going to focus on doing your job? I like to talk about defining your role. What's your role on the field? And then let's talk about how can you do your best job? What are the main things you need to focus on? Like keeping shape, for example, or getting back on defense quickly, or, going on runs or getting into open space. Like all of those things are relevant that's going to help you perform and execute. But if in the back of your mind, you're constantly thinking about what coach expects of you or what you think parents expect of you, then number one, you're distracted. And number two, you're playing tentatively or afraid to make mistakes.
Yep, great point. Get them to focus on their role or their position. I do the same with my athletes. And a lot of times I will encourage them to reframe their thoughts. So instead of saying, I need to score, we can encourage the athlete to say something like, well, I want to keep shape with my teammates, or I want to make a simple pass. I want to. And that a lot of times will remove the pressure that they're feeling.
Great. I've been talking with Jaclyn Ellis. I'm Patrick Cohn. For more tips, articles, videos, you can jump over to Soccer Psychology Tips. In addition, if you're interested in the coaching with Jaclyn, you can jump over to peaksports.com and click on Contact Us. Thanks, Jaclyn.
Thank you.